You know, it's a little bit of both, I think is the best way to put it. It is, you learn the skills a little bit more, right? You learn how to write the story a little bit better, so maybe some things you can do better, whether it's, you might know how to create tension, or you might know how to write a descriptive scene a little bit better. So you say, okay, I have the skills, I can do this is great. And yet, it's so much harder because you have to be more creative, because you don't want to do what you've done before. And that's the challenge. And you say, you know, okay, why don't I write this character, and this is the situation with their family. You say, oh wait, I just did that in the last song. I can't do that. So, well, how can I change it? And then you begin to run out of ideas. But it's very, very tough to come up with a story that feels very fresh and original when you try to work within some specific guidelines, I guess.
Oscar Madison said, as the Dorothy Parker of Ernest
I
Hemingway.
love how we can quote.
Yeah, Oscar Madison or Dorothy Parker or Ernest Hemingway. One of them said, I don't like writing, I like having it written.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to that?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, is the actual process fun, or is it really this part that's fun? I mean,
Yeah, writing is not typically enjoyable.
right, it's okay to say that. So you're just talking to me.
Right, it's not. I mean, I find it exceptionally grueling. You know, people always wonder what the process is like. Gosh, what is it like on a day when you're writing? And I was a finance major, so I love to tell this particular story. Usually when I sit down to write, I try to write 2,000 words. Okay, 2,000 words. That'll take on average 5 hours. Now, if you do the division, for those who weren't good at math, I'll do it for you, it's 400 words an hour, okay? Now, if I was just had the page and I could type, I'll type 60 words a minute, right? So you say, if I was just typing, it's 50, you know, that's 8 minutes out of the hour. So what do you do the other 52 minutes? Well, you stare at the 8 minutes worth of writing and try and fix it, or you lean back, or you change it, or you start over, or you're not sure, you lean back, you go get a glass of water, you make a phone call, you know. Procrastination is absolutely key, because you need to give your mind a chance to settle and say, okay, let me move on. And so to me, you know, you read a book, like Harlan writes a book, and I try to write a book where the pages turn quickly. But when you're writing those pages, yeah, they take days to write. You know, like, do y'all love the letters? Or some people say they like the letters in my novels. You know, you read them, oh, it's so moving, that's wonderful. How do you do that? Well, about 3 days worth of work to get that right. You know, it takes you 2 minutes to read. So it's just one of these, it's a very tough process, because you're trying to be original and creative and memorable, and it is what it is, right?
Are you still, I subscribe that we never stop, when we do, we're starting to phone it in, that we're always a little bit insecure. I mean, when you're writing it, do you have moments when you're writing where you go, oh my God, I lost it, and then 5 minutes later, like, this is the greatest thing I've ever written? Does that happen to you too?
Every single time. Yeah, I'm blessed that I have a wonderful agent who's here in the audience. Won't point that person out in case any of you were looking for an agent. I would do that.
I mean, points with strangers.
Yeah, right there. That's my agent, right? But yeah, I call, right, and I say, hey, you've got to drop everything you're doing in your very busy world and give, you know, because I need her to look at it and see if I'm on the right track. Otherwise, I literally get stuck and I can't go forward, because you're so close and you just can't tell if it's working. You just need someone to say, yeah, it does.
And it doesn't matter how many number ones you've had, 90 million plus books in print, whatever it is, it never goes away, right?
No, never does.
Okay.
Not for me. For Stephen King, it does.
I don't think it does. No, I think they're insecure. We were talking to, we sold a lot of books, dude, and we're still as insecure as the day is long. So I mean, there's a lot of writers out there who think, you and I sit down and it just comes easy and he just knows when it's, but you don't. I mean, it's torture still, right?
No. It's always, there's always a lot of, I think the biggest challenge is the conception of a story.
Right.
That is the hardest part. That can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 6, 7 months to really think of a story. Because what I'm trying to do is, because I have had a fairly good run in Hollywood, so I'm trying to think of a story that's original for both novel and film, and that will work equally well in both mediums. And so you're going through stories and you say, oh, this might work for a novel, but I can't film this very well. You know, it's just not very interesting on camera. Or you say, oh, it would work great, but you know what, there was a movie kind of like that, so I have to throw out that idea. So you conceive this story with two mediums in mind, and that can take a long time. It's very challenging because you're trying to be original and creative and interesting and bold. And then once you finally have the story, for me, I sit down and say, okay, that's the hard part. Now I'll start writing. I'm a novelist. I've done this before. How hard can it be? Crack your knuckles, you say. All right, let me think about this opening line for a second here. What do I want to say, right? And then it is what it is. But once I start writing, it's only about the novel, because primarily that's how I define myself, and it's what I strive to do.
You see things cinematically. I mean, your books are cinematic.
Yeah.
By nature, you and I grew up, we didn't necessarily go up to Proust and Gates and all the things that obnoxious writers like to pretend. No writer has ever seen a TV show or movie. It's always, but you and I are both cinematic. I mean,
Look, I like the Brady Bunch, Happy Days. I'm a big fan of the Twilight Zone. That's why my chapters end with those cliffhangers, right? I didn't learn that from Proust. He didn't know how to do that. But look, when Marsha Brady's waiting for that prom day, and the commercial comes, you gotta tune in for the next segment.
This is, I've gotten to read this already, so I got an advantage over all of you. I think this may be your most ambitious novel. Is that fair to say?
I think so, yeah. It's two stories in one, really.
And one thing that I want to ask you about specifically, I'm not going to give anything away, is, you know, and you know, you wrote Notebook when you were in your 20s. You're good with old people. Why is that? Especially, you know, there's old people in this book, and there's old people certainly. Why are you good with old people? What's that all about?
I don't know. You know, it's very kind of you to say.
I ain't writing much. You're just good with old people.
I think it's fun to get into their voice, right? And I think I can close my eyes and imagine, all right, you're looking back. You're not so much looking forward, you're looking back. And if you're at that stage, you've been around long enough to realize that maybe what you used to think is important.
But you were in your 20s when you wrote the Notebook, too. Now we kind of forget that a little bit.
I don't know. You know, I don't know. I mean, first it was Noah's voice, and he was in his 80s, right? And then it's Ira in this particular book. I don't know. I like old people.
You love to make us cry. You do it better than anybody I know.
Yeah.
But to me, I've never thought of you as a guy who's writing love stories. I think you're a guy who's always writing a story that happens to have love in it. What is that? Is that better how you define yourself?
Yeah,
How do you
that's
think
without question. You know, what I try to do is, and it's so hard because people say, what genre is it? Is it a romance novel? No. Is it a love story? Maybe, but what is that, right? It's really hard even for me to define what I do. And after years of finally answering the question, I stumbled upon something that I think works, but it's a little complex. But if you have every genre, especially if you're a commercial writer, every genre has a specific purpose. Okay, Harlan writes mystery thrillers. So what he has to do is thrill you and surprise you with a mystery. And if he does, then the novel has succeeded. You know, there's people who do it better than others. But that is the purpose of his genre. Horror novels are supposed to scare you. So what on earth is the purpose of mine? Is it to just make you cry?
Yes.
No. What's the purpose? It is to move the reader through all of the emotions of life, including love and sadness, so that by the time you finish the novel, you feel as if you know the character. And this character feels very authentic and honest. And so the goal is to move you through all of the emotions of life so that by the time you close the cover, you remember these people as if you've known them forever. And that's what the purpose is. It's to go through all the emotions, of which love and sadness is part. Now, if I left out one of those, you know, people say, why do you make them cry? I say, have any of you ever cried? What if I was to define the That's not what I write. That's very much in the romance novel genre. And that's its purpose. It is a beautiful romantic fantasy. That's not what I do. So that's the purpose.
Can you, in fact, I think this is what you're, you can't have an up without a down, you can't have a left without a right, you can't have a good without an evil. And in Nicholas Sparks' world, we really can't have love without sadness, can we?
Not at
Yes.
all. Right, there's no such thing.
In fact, without sadness, you can't really have a love. Love does not have a poignancy. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
This is absolutely true. Every great love story, by definition, has to end in tragedy. Has to. Because at the end, it's over somehow. Right? One dies first. Or, let's say it's like the Notebook movie. They both die at the same time, right? You don't think their kids cried at the funeral? Come on, right? It wasn't in the movie, but we can make the assumption that they're not, playing,
No, it's exactly
at the
the
funeral.
luckiest of the luckiest people in the world,
Right.
and still, someone's gonna die.
Someone's got that, and the greater the love, the greater the tragedy. Because every day, 10,000, 50,000 people around the world die. We all go on with our daily lives. But the moment it's someone that you love, it feels like the world is coming to an end. So I try to create a character that feels whole and real and authentic to you. You're going to shed a tear when Miley Cyrus's dad says, "That's it, honey, I'm out of here. And I just wanted you to forgive me, baby."
And on that super happy note, and that optimistic, feel-good passage, we are going to have to call it quits because Nicholas has to sign some books for you all. Nick, thank you. It was great to see you.